I spent the last few weeks in Arc Raiders killing dozens of Bastions, Bombardiers, Rocketeers and Leapers in more different ways than you've probably ever seen or even thought of. Today, I'm breaking down all of the best, quickest, cheapest and most fun methods for taking on these Arc, especially as a solo player, and giving you different options so you don't have to rely on having one hard to find blueprint in order to do it. All of these methods I've tried to reproduce multiple times to really see exactly what works best and what is most reliable, and not just a lucky clip we've seen on the Reddit. And these methods are going to be incredibly helpful to you for farming Arc parts for the new Arc Trophy display expeditions. I've also got some quick tips at the end on how to quickly find explosive blueprints like the Wolfpack and the Deadline, and also the best way to easily farm materials that are going to let you craft those explosives. There's a full chapter listing down below so you can check out the bits you're most interested in. Drop a like and a sub if you enjoy the vid. Let's jump straight into it. So first up, let's have a look at the Bastion, and I also wanted to talk about how Arc hit points work and how you can tell how many hit points a Arc enemy has. So whilst we pause it here, you can see pops up on the left here saying damaged Arc. We get plus 2,591 XP for that hit on that Bastion, and that was the killing hit as well. You actually get 2 XP per damage done. So if we take this damaged amount here and divide that by 2, that's how much damage we did with that hit. So about 1,300 HP in damage to the Bastion with that attack. And you can use this as a gauge to see how effective your attacks are being. And you can also check this in the match log afterwards. You can go here and you can see the exact damage you've done to kill that. So you can see the Bastion here has 2,050 HP in total. That's how much damage we did to it because we killed it completely. We were using a Trailblazer there, which does explosive damage in a kind of weird way, so it doesn't list the Trailblazer, but most of the time it will say the thing you did the damage with, like a Deadline or an Anvil, and it will tell you exactly the breakdown of how many hit points you did with that. So to one-shot a Bastion with 2,050 health, we'd expect to see the XP pop up as 4,100. The basic weak points of the Bastion are pretty well known. We're not going to worry about those too much today, but it's good to know about them. One of those obviously is the knees. You have these yellow knees. If you shoot these with some heavy ammo, like with an Anvil or a Ferro, they're going to break in about 5 or 6 hits. You shoot the armor off, then they get exposed, then you keep shooting them, they're going to explode with flames like that, and then the Bastion's going to drop down and be incapacitated for a short amount of time, so you can attack it from behind or attach an explosive to it. It's also quite vulnerable from the top. It's got the yellow peg on the back, which is a weak spot obviously as well, but even on top, this central area is quite weakly armored. The sort of shoulder pad areas there are heavier armor, so try not to target those. But if you attack directly from above into that central strip, then you're going to do pretty effective damage to it as well. You can even just shoot down into this with an Anvil or something as well. You've got to be cautious of them. They can spin around and kill you very, very quickly, no matter what you're trying to do. Their minigun will kill you in 1 or 2 seconds if you get caught in the open. So I want to start off with my favorite way to kill the Bastion. I've killed so many Bastions recently in all sorts of different ways. This ended up being my favorite. Now, the Bastions are very easy to bait into places you want to fight them. This one here is actually shooting at someone else. It's getting a bit distracted, and they're shooting it as well. But you'll see another one in a minute where it's just me completely solo. And they're very easy to bait over to places because you can shoot them and then just block the line of sight from its gun, and it'll come walking right over like this. They can only attack you with a direct line of sight. That gives you lots of advantages you can use. What we're doing here is using the Deadline, which you can either craft with a blueprint if you have it, or you can buy 1 per day from the traders for 15,000 credits. What we want to do is put our gun away so we run a bit quicker, lure the Bastion nearby, and then we're going to leap on top of it, and then we're going to place a Deadline on the center of it. It doesn't necessarily have to be on this round bit, but it's a good target to go for. It just needs to make sure it's on that central strip, and then you've got to quickly run out the way. I'd recommend jumping off the back of it so its gun isn't pointing directly towards you. You can see there we got 2,000 XP. We did about 1,000 damage to it. That's about half its HP because it's already hurt. But here you're going to see one from full HP. And these Deadlines will one-shot Bastions. One Deadline will kill a Bastion from full health. And you don't even have to aggro them over sometimes. This is an area on Spaceport that's really good to fight them. I'll put a little map up on screen so you can see where it is. They often spawn here, and they'll walk through the middle here where you can jump on top of them very easily without even having to aggro them first. But they can be aggroed over on any map pretty easily if you do need to do that. So here's another Deadline going on straight on top. and then jumping off the back and then quickly getting inside. Make sure you got some hard cover to get into because it's going to spin around and try and shoot you pretty quickly. You can kind of delay getting off it slightly so it has less time to shoot you, but obviously you need to be careful that the deadline isn't going to blow you up as well. So here's another one just to show about the placement of the deadline. That last one you saw it do the full HP damage on that Bastion. This one we're going to place on the side here. So it's on top, but it's on that kind of shoulder flank. We get tagged a bit here, but do manage to get just into cover. But you see how quickly you will get killed if you're not careful there. And when that blows up, you see 2,100 damaged arc there. So we did about 1,000, just over 1,000 HP damage on that Bastion. Didn't kill it, only took it to about half health. So it makes a big difference where you place that. So just make sure it goes on the central strip. Another thing you can use is the photoelectric cloak. You can try and use this to sneak up on the Bastion and place a deadline like we do here. You basically just want to place this pretty much anywhere on its lower half. You can try and place it on the yellow thing. It doesn't really matter as long as it's kind of underneath. This clip isn't really ideal in terms of placement. Really, you probably want to just place it on the actual lower body because that doesn't spin around as much and it's less likely to cancel the placing of the deadline while it spins around. But we managed to get that place and we just get out of the way. Another useful thing you can do, there you go, you see 4,099, so full damage basically on the Bastion there, and we one-shot it with that deadline. Another useful thing you can do is using the photoelectric cloak when you place the deadline on top, and then when you jump off, you can just hold the cloak and just stand there in the open and watch it blow up. When you're using the photoelectric cloak, it will still sometimes fire its gun, but it will just kind of focus on one spot where you were and just keep firing there as long as you're cloaked. In that clip there, we actually got knocked back into the line of fire by its knees by accident, so kind of unlucky. But creeping up on it with the photoelectric cloak is quite tricky. I don't think it's a great way to sort of do it. I have managed to make it work a few times, but much more reliable to jump on top. And it's so easy to bait it into certain places to fight it that you might as well just bait it somewhere where you can jump on top, slap the deadline on top, and then kill it that way. But the photoelectric cloak, you can craft these if you have your gear benches up to max level, and they're very effective for getting away once you place the deadline. If you're trying to place them underneath as well, you can get unlucky like that and get stuck underneath the Bastion or caught by the gun. And in that case, we actually got knocked by the Bastion's gun and then immediately finished off by my own deadline blowing up and killing me. So here's another method. We talked about breaking the knees earlier. I'll just show you placing a deadline once taking out the knees. Another effective way, because you can use the TPP peeking to sort of shoot the knees out without it having a line of sight on you, so it can't hit you with its gun. And we can just keep chipping away at the knees with an anvil in this case. Doesn't take many shots at all, about 5 or 6. And then once that blows up, you get a good bit of time to run around, and we're just going to slap a deadline on this. It doesn't have to go on the yellow thing at the back. It doesn't have to go right in the back. You can see that one we just kind of put on the underbelly, and that is going to finish that off in one hit. Obviously, it's taken a bit of damage already from the anvil, but it would one hit it. It's done almost full amount of damage there, 3,700 XP. Another really fun thing to do is Trailblazers. These are really good, but they can be quite temperamental in terms of damage they do. See, that hit there did 750 damage. We did 1,500 XP. And then this one here that you're going to see come up is going to do loads more. And I'll explain how they work in just a second. So that big hit there, see 2,600 damage up there. So we did 1,300 damage with that one and 750 with the first one. So we just two-tapped that. And potentially we might have been able to do more damage with the second one. Obviously it caps out because we killed it. So what these Trailblazers do is they put down a cloud of this kind of green gas. This is throwing a lure grenade, by the way, and then using Trailblazers as well. They put down this cloud of green gasoline, and then there's a series of explosions that goes off along that line. And kind of depending on where the arc ends up moving to and standing and the range can really affect how much damage they do when you hit it with these. Sometimes they can do well over 1,000. Sometimes the arc might move in a funny way, or you get unlucky with explosions and that could do 500 damage. So Trailblazers are very effective on these, but sometimes it might take 2, sometimes it could take 4 or 5 if you're unlucky with where they move or your throws. Ideally, you're kind of throwing them under its legs, slightly through its legs, and then you want it to sort of stay in the middle of the cloud. But if it moves off slightly to the side like it did there, then you end up doing tiny amount of damage. This one here, you see, look, this does 400 damage there. Well, 400 XP, so 200 damage that Trailblazer did, compared to 1,300 damage we did on that previous clip. So Trailblazers can be very effective. They're cheaper than some of the other grenades, and they're a lot of fun, but big variation in the amount of damage they can do. Another really effective thing I like to use is light impact grenades. So these are available to anyone. You don't need a blueprint. You can buy them, and you can buy them for about 800 each, or you can craft them very cheaply as well for chemicals and plastic. If you lure a Bastion over, like we talked about earlier, you can bait it close to you like this from a raised point where its gun can't hit you, and then you can use the arc of the grenade, the sort of curved arc, so you can stand and keep throwing grenades without it actually being able to shoot you. And it's going to take, in this case, it actually took 22 light impact grenades to kill this thing. If you miss a few, if you hit the flanks, then it's going to take a few more. But within 25 to 30 light impacts, you should be able to kill one of these. And if you buy 30 light impacts from the trader, that's about 24,000. So very cheap to get and very cheap to craft. So that's a great quick way to do it. If you have them ready to spam, you can literally kill a Bastion in about 30 seconds just using light impact grenades. Just make sure you aim for that central strip. If you hit the sides, then it's going to do less damage. You just want to hit that central top strip that has weaker armor on it. So jumping over to Wolfpacks, one of everyone's favorites. These are okay on Bastions. They're a bit temperamental because you can't really predict where the explosives are going to go, and because you have some areas on top of the Bastion that are very heavily armored and some that are very weakly armored, there can be quite a lot of variation in the amount of damage you do. Seeker grenades, by the way, that's what we just threw at that small arc there, very effective. So here's our first Wolfpack. You can see some of the Wolfpack shots went off to attack an arc miles away, and we only did 600 damage to it there. And then we got another Wolfpack coming in, and some of them going off. And this ends up taking 3 Wolfpacks to kill this Bastion. Normally probably what it's going to take. Sometimes you get it done in 2 if all of the Wolfpacks hit it and don't get distracted, which doesn't often happen. And you get kind of lucky with how they cluster into the central area above. You can kill it in 2, which you'll see in just a minute. But normally it's going to end up taking 3 Wolfpacks. Obviously that's a blueprint that you need to acquire. It is very quick way to do it, but they don't stack, so you're going to have them taking up multiple safe pocket slots if you don't want to risk them. So here we are throwing from above, and these ones are quite effective because they explode just above it. I think lots of the explosives kind of hit that central area, and we end up actually 2-tapping that Bastion just using those Wolfpacks from this roof in Buried City. So Wolfpacks obviously very effective, but I do find the jumping on top with a deadline is probably my favorite way and quickest. If you have access to a deadline, obviously you can buy one once a day. You can't buy any Wolfpacks in the store, so if you don't have the blueprint, you can't use it. So here's another example of the Wolfpack getting distracted. I think there was a surveyor down below that a load of the explosives went and hit, and then we end up having to throw 3 again in order to kill this thing. And you can see because of the non-stackability, I have to keep going in my safe box and grabbing them out. I'm playing on controller here, by the way, on Xbox, so it's a little clunky to manage safe box. But you can see 3 Wolfpacks there will take down the Bastion because of its heavy armor on top. So there's a bunch of other stuff you can try and use on Bastions that I don't think is very effective. This is me trying trigger grenades, I'm trying snap blasts, I'm trying heavy fused. I tried all of these things. None of them are particularly effective. They do quite small amounts of damage. You could chip away at one eventually, but I think none of them really compare to either going full budget and using the light impact grenades, the small red ones, which are just so ridiculously cheap and very, very effective, or just using more premium stuff like Wolfpacks, Deadlines, and Trailblazers. So this is just trying out different stuff. Even the lure grenades aren't massively effective on the Bastions. They're much more effective on Bombardiers that I'll show you in a minute. But the problem with lure grenades is that when you throw them, they make a noise, and then the arcs basically target them, and they'll try and destroy the lure, and then they'll look around and attack you again. And the Bastions will just pretty much instantly just blast the lure grenade, even out of the air sometimes, and then turn and shoot you again. So the lures just don't last unless you get it kind of behind a bit of cover. Sometimes they get a little bit distracted by it, but generally they'll kill the lures straight away and then just refocus on you. So none of those very effective. I don't find the showstoppers very effective. This is a showstopper. They do kind of stun them very briefly, but nowhere near as much as if you take out a knee or something like that. And just generally throwing all this kind of stuff was just not really worthwhile compared to the other methods, in my opinion. A few people also mentioned the idea of using smokes, which we kind of tried out. I think they're going to be most useful if you're placing deadlines on top and then jumping off. Maybe you put a smoke down once you place the deadline and then jump off. That might help you avoid getting shot by its gun. In terms of throwing a smoke down and then running up to it and trying to slap a deadline onto it, we tried this, but as soon as I kind of did that, either the Bastion walks out in the smoke and then it's not very effective, or it's in the smoke and then you can't even see where the Bastion is and you don't know where to place the deadline. So I didn't find them very useful for that, but like I said, they could be useful for saving you when you are jumping off after placing a deadline. So jumping over to the Bombardiers, these guys actually have more HP than the Bastions. They have 2,670 hit points, but they have much weaker armor in general, so you can sometimes kill them in less hits with different explosives than you might do with a Bastion. They have these two little spotters that will fly around and help target you, and then it's going to try and shoot rockets out the top to try and kill you. You can blow up the spotters, but they're going to respawn every couple of minutes or so, but it will give you a quick window. The Bombardiers have an AoE attack as well, so if you get up close to them, you'll see them doing this little spinny electric thing, and then they'll blast you and knock you over. And they can also kind of spin round and knock you over with their knees quite a lot when you're up close to them. So they can be pretty tricky to fight, as well as the fact that the rockets shoot out of the top, so they don't need a line of sight in order to attack you. Makes them tougher to fight in many ways than the Bastion, because you can't lure them to a spot by standing on a roof and just shooting it and taking a bit of cover, because they'll just fire rockets up and kill you, and they won't necessarily come over and come any closer to you. They'll just stand at range. What you can do is photoelectric cloak and try and slap things on it, but you can get into these problems you see here, where you can get kicked around by its knees, and that will cancel the placement of the explosives, but you can make it work. What I think is the #1 most effective way to kill these things, and one of the most fun, is using lure grenades and a deadline. So lure grenades, really effective against the Bombardier, because they kind of struggle to kill tiny little things close up like that. You see these lures here, it's actually trying to use its AoE attack to kill them. We probably didn't need to throw so many. You could just throw really one in the right spot. But that last one, you can see here, it's still not killed it. It's trying to fire rockets at it, and it doesn't even turn around. There's no other player there it's targeting. It just sits there, just looking at the lure, doesn't look around when I put the deadline on it, or even when it's about to explode. You can see we do 5,000, nearly 5,200 damage to that, basically full HP damage with that one shot with the deadline. You can just place that deadline anywhere on that lower half of it. It's going to kill it, or pretty much anywhere really that isn't on its face. This is another example of using the deadline and not even bothering the lure. We just kind of walk up to it. If you sprint, they're going to hear you a bit more easily, but if you just walk up, then they don't tend to aggro till you get quite close. This one's a little distracted until we get here. And this deadline we actually end up placing on a leg, I think it gets attached to in the end, but we run away, and this will still one-shot it as well. You can see they're much easier to do in many ways than the Bastions, because if a Bastion was doing that, it'd spin round and in half a second it would just kill you with its minigun. So here's an example of doing it with the photoelectric cloak like we talked about. You can kind of sneak up on them and try and place a deadline on them. You want to target the lower half, really targeting the top half like this. We have made it work sometimes, but it's quite tricky because they're going to spin around that top part, and then that's going to cancel the placement of the deadline. So when you're trying to place a deadline on it, make sure you do it on the bottom half. It's a bit less spinny and less likely to cancel it when you're trying to place it. This is using Wolfpacks. Wolfpacks very effective on Bombardiers because they're much less armored than the Bastions. I'm actually trying to take out the spotters here using secret grenades, but they keep targeting the Bombardier. So I end up just throwing the Wolfpack anyway. But you can see, even though one of the Wolfpacks, maybe a few others, went off to one side and killed a spotter, maybe something else, we did 1,600 hit points of damage to the Bombardier with one Wolfpack, way more than we did in a single hit to a Bastion. And obviously, with only having 2,670 HP, another shot like that is going to easily kill it. So we see another Wolfpack here. This one's going to come down, and that's going to finish that off very comfortably. Didn't even need the third one. So Wolfpack's very effective on Bombardiers. You don't even need to really clear out the other arc as much. Here's another example of using 2 in order to kill a Bombardier. Like I said, Bastions, you're often going to end up using 3 Wolfpacks to kill them, but Bombardiers, you should pretty comfortably be able to use 2. That one did 1,200 with the first hit, and then the second one worked a bit better and finished it off, although it had taken a little bit of damage, I think, at some point. But again, a clean 2 there. As always with Wolfpacks, you can never quite predict where they're all going to go. If there's other arc nearby, they can go off flying for miles, targeting different things. You see I throw 2 here, and loads of the explosives go off elsewhere. Ends up taking 3 to kill it, and when we throw the third one, we get a missile in the face and we actually get killed, but we did kill the Bombardier as well. Trailblazers can be effective on Bombardiers, but just like the Bastions, they're very unpredictable. Sometimes you might do over 1,000 damage, 1,500 damage with one Trailblazer. Sometimes you might do almost nothing. This is using a lure grenade and then trying to spam Trailblazers underneath it. Trailblazers, by the way, you can sort of spam throw them like this, unlike blaze grenades, because you're not doing fire damage, you're not doing burn damage over time with it, so you're just doing explosive damage, and that will stack. If you throw all 3 at the same time, that damage will all stack. You can see that one we killed with 3 Trailblazers. But this one here, this first Trailblazer there we throw, that's going to do, you can see here we did 1917 XP, so about 800 damage with that Trailblazer. So at that rate, that's going to take at least 4 in order to kill it. But this one we actually come round, we attack from the other side, and we end up doing some really, really low damage hits with the Trailblazers with some throws that look like they should be quite effective. So kind of my main problem with Trailblazers is that they're not very predictable as to how many you're going to need to use. You kind of need to bring in 5 or have something else as a backup just in case. See, this throw here, we're super close to it. I think maybe it bounces off the leg a little bit. But this first hit, look, 465 XP. So about 200, less than 250 damage. And another one, maybe that bounced off a little bit as well off the leg. It's hard to tell, but that did 150 HP damage. So they can do very low damage. A little bit hard to predict, but if you can get them underneath and they don't move away too much, then they can do big damage as well. This is using blaze grenades. You can chip away at them with blaze grenades. It's not massively effective, but because you don't have to stand out in the open, it's quite a safe way of doing it. They're only going to do about 400 to 500 damage for each one. You need to throw at them, let them set on fire, and then wait for it to tick down. And then once it's finished making it, you'll hear a little noise that's ticking away doing damage, and then you'll see the XP pop up like that. We did about 450 or just over damage that time. Then you can pop out, throw another one, set it on fire, and just take cover and wait again. Blaze grenade's pretty cheap, so it's a cheap way to do it. It's kind of safe, but it is probably going to take you 6 or 7 of these in order to kill it. So it's quite slow, and obviously that means other players might turn up and try and get involved, or a leaper might come flying through the air and try and attack you for no good reason like this guy did. So onto Rocketeers. Obviously Wolfpack's a very easy way to kill Rocketeers and many things in the game if you have them. With a good hit with a Wolfpack, you should do maybe about 1,000 damage to a Rocketeer, and they have 1,100 hit points. So it's generally going to take 2 if you wanted to kill them just with Wolfpacks, or it's going to take a Wolfpack and then 4 or 5 shots with an anvil should kill them. I have seen people say that if you throw a Wolfpack underneath and then all the explosives hit it in the unarmored parts, you can kill them in 1 hit. But realistically, it's quite tricky to do that. You can see that Wolfpack there, that missed 2 hits, and that did 1,800 damage in terms of XP, so about 900 damage. So it has about 200 hit points left, so 5-6 hits with an anvil doing 40 damage each is going to finish that off. Generally, that's going to be the most effective way if you're using Wolfpacks. Hit them with 1 and then finish them, or better yet, shoot them 4 or 5 times when they're at range with your anvil or your ferro, and then when they come in close, you can throw your Wolfpack and you're going to one-shot it and finish it off. Here's another go with the Wolfpack, trying to throw it underneath. I think you need to do it when they're much higher up. You can see this one, a lot of the explosives just go straight down into the ground. Some of them go up into it from underneath, but we only do 400 damage because it's just not at a very good height to do it. So it's kind of a tricky one to reproduce. Here's an example of shooting the Rocketeer. When it's a little further away, you can see we can get a few hits into it comfortably with the anvil. It pops up with the damage on the left there, 80 damage, so we're doing 80 XP, so we're doing 40 damage with that anvil hit. So we just need to hit that a few times, and when it comes in close, we can just throw the Wolfpack, and then that's going to kill it nice and quick. But don't worry, there's plenty of ways we can kill these very easily without having any blueprints, any fancy explosives, and I'll show you exactly how to do that now. So this is my favorite way to kill Rocketeers with a low-tech approach. You don't need anything fancy, no blueprints, nothing like that. We're on Buried City here, and we're at the Galleria where all the Great Mullen grows, and we're just attacking a Rocketeer to bait it over here, just shooting it with an anvil and running down to these steps here. And what we're trying to do, you can do this with lots of different steps in the games. These ones just work quite well because there's Rocketeers nearby. We get onto a staircase and we peek just over the lip of it, and then we just shoot the hell out of it. We're going to aim just for its central kind of eye bit, the red eye, and break the armor there and then just keep hitting it. Doesn't really matter so much if you can shoot it there, or you can shoot out engines. Once you've blown up 2 engines, it's going to fall down as well. But basically, they kind of glitch out when you peek over a ledge like this, and you can just stand here and keep shooting. You can see this entire engagement, it doesn't fire at me a single time when I'm on these stairs. They can sometimes go a bit wide or a bit high, and they'll get a different angle on you and fire. But most of the time, if you can keep them sitting in this spot, they will just sit there, and you can just sit there and shoot it away with heavy ammo. And it's the cheapest, easiest way to kill these without really taking any risk at all. You can see this one's just about to go down, and that's the easiest Rocketeer kill you're ever likely to see. You can also kill them using a kind of stun lock method. This is with 2 of us, but you can do this with 1. It's easier with 2. And if you just shoot one when it's outside of its range, a little way away, they tend to move to you quite quickly initially, but then if they're getting shot, they'll sort of stop just outside of range and then just kind of sit there until they stop getting hit, and then they'll move forward again. So if you're able to keep regularly hitting it, either in that central eye or in the engines, they just sit there out of range for absolutely ages, and you can just pound away at them. You can do this with an Osprey to give you increased range as well. This is just 2 of us using anvils, but I think we killed 5 Rocketeers like this in this one round. I'll just show you this one clip, and it just sits there, doesn't even get to fire a single shot at us. Obviously, if you just had one person, you could try bringing 2 anvils if you wanted, and that's also going to help, obviously, with your reload times, but you are still going to have to reload one of them once you've fired off 12 shots. But if you can hit it 12 times with an anvil before it gets over into range, then you've already done nearly 500 HP damage to it, so at least it's on half health. Now this is another really great way to kill Rocketeers that I discovered. I tried playing around with showstoppers, found them really unreliable, not very effective on Rocketeers. But what is very effective is using Hornet drivers. So Hornet drivers, when you kill a Hornet, they drop those, you can carry them around and then throw them at arc and they stun them a bit like a showstopper. But I find them much more reliable on Rocketeers than using showstoppers. So what happens is you throw these Hornet drivers near a Rocketeer or at it. They don't actually have to direct hit. They kind of explode near them and then give them a little zap sometimes. And then they'll fall out of the air. Not every time, but most of the time, they'll fall out of the air and you can run over and you can slap a deadline on it or whatever you want to do. Deadline, obviously very effective. You can see there it gave it a little zap with lightning when it was close, stuns it for a few seconds. We can get on top, place the deadline, and then just jump off quickly before it gets too high. And that's obviously going to one-shot it. Sometimes when you hit them with the Hornet drivers, when they're already aggroed, it can be a bit less effective and not knock them out the air. I find they're a lot more reliable if they're not aggroed and you just sort of sneakily throw the Hornet driver at them before they've spotted you. And you can also use the technique of kind of sneaking up on them, or you could use a photoelectric cloak to get a bit closer if you needed to as well. So you can see here, we're trying to sort of sneak up behind this one and hit it. The higher they are, the trickier it can be sometimes, both to hit them, but also they sort of go into the stun state whilst they're in the air and slowly come down. So if they're up high, then they're going to slowly fall down, but by the time they get to the ground, the stun will have nearly worn off. That's kind of almost what happened here. We just get on it in time because the stun's basically worn off by the time it hits the ground, but we still get the deadline on and just about get off in time in order to see it explode. So you can see, pretty nice reliable way. If you've got a deadline blueprint, I'll show you about the deadline blueprint at the end, remember, if you want to find one. It's not too hard to find. Really fun way to kill them. Obviously, Hornet Drive is very, very easy to acquire as well. If you haven't done this before, it's so much fun. I really recommend giving it a go. It's honestly so easy as well. Like I said, just try and do it sneakily on one that isn't aggroed, but it does work when they're aggroed. This one here is aggroed. Sometimes they just kind of glitch out and get a bit stuck as well. Like this guy has a real bad time. He gets zapped, falls down onto this bit, and then kind of falls onto his back, gets a little bit stuck here. We end up climbing up and putting a deadline kind of on his underbelly here, and then I think he manages to just about sort of shimmy his way out before he explodes here or there or thereabouts. So we may have to just run back so you don't get hit by the deadline when it explodes. So here's another one. I've got my photoelectric cloak this time to try and sneak up, but you see, like I said earlier with the Bombardier and the Bastion, if you just walk up behind without sprinting, you kind of sneak up and catch them out without them aggroing. When you start sprinting, they can hear you. Again, you see how reliable this is. We did this so many times on stream the other week. Hit it with the Hornet driver, jump on it, slap the deadline on, and it's gone super, super easy. You can try and hit them with snap hooks and try and grapple onto them and place deadlines on that. I'm sure you've seen clips of people doing that. It's kind of hard to do, I found. You keep hitting it underneath and then you sort of snap hook up to it, but then you can't climb onto the top. So it can be tricky. This method, much more effective, works much better for me. So this one we actually knock out the air with a Hornet driver. The second Hornet driver actually zapped me there. But then this thing kind of gets stuck and flips on its back. And then it's just stuck there. So we end up just going for the melee kill. It doesn't manage to flip itself over the whole time. And a little while later, after standing there hitting it about 40 times, I think, with my melee weapon, we managed to get the melee kill on the upside down Rocketeer. So really recommend trying it. It's a lot of fun. This is the showstopper, by the way, on a Rocketeer. Throwing up with what looked like a direct hit. Didn't do anything. Through another showstopper and it just flew past it and didn't hit it. So I've tried these a few times and I Occasionally you can sort of disable them using them, but I just find them not very reliable compared to the Hornet drivers, which are also so easy to get. That's the snap hook attempt, by the way. We did try this for a little while. Probably easier if you're doing it from above a Rocketeer somehow, and you can kind of zap down on above, but a little tricky trying to do it, and we end up paying the ultimate price for that one. So I'll just show you a couple of Leaper clips quickly. They're much easier to kill than the others. You can just sort of go in a building, lure them over by shooting them, and stand there and just wail away with your gun. They're pretty easy to fight, but you can kill them with other stuff. This is with the Trailblazer. They have 1100 HP total. You see that Trailblazer there actually did almost full hit it. It did 2100 XP, so probably put it down to about 50 or so HP there, and then we actually end up getting attacked by another player. Here's another Trailblazer. If you try and put them underneath it, then it's going to do a good amount of damage. Depends how they're moving though. If they move away from it, then obviously it can do a lot less. You can also fight these quite effectively by throwing blaze grenades at them and setting them on fire, or by targeting legs with heavy ammo to shoot out legs to slow it down, or by shooting this central sort of eye thing. You can knock the armor off that with heavy armor and then just shoot it there over and over, and you're going to take them out pretty quickly. You can also Wolfpack them as well. Obviously, I'm not sure I'd really bother. They're a bit mixed on how they affect them. They do okay damage, but they have quite a lot of armor plating over the topper parts of them, so you can often end up throwing a Wolfpack and not one-shotting them. And to be honest, because they're so easy to kill by just standing there and shooting it with quite a weak gun from inside of a building, it feels a bit wasteful bothering with Wolfpacks on these compared to some of the more dangerous enemies like Rocketeers or Bombardiers or Bastions. Just a quick note on the small arc that you might have to deal with whilst you're fighting some of these bigger arc. If you get the Seeker Grenade, bring some of those in. They're very cheap and easy to craft, and they're kind of like a little single Wolfpack in a way. You throw it up in the air, they explode, and a little single sort of tracking explosive will zoom and attack a nearby arc. And they're really great for if you're in a pinch fighting a big arc and you've got some small Hornets and Wasps attacking you. You can just pop a couple of these off and take them out. If you throw them above them, so they come down and hit them in the unarmored engine parts from above or behind, then you can one-shot the Wasps and normally two-shot the Hornets. And you can also use them to take out snitches in 1 or 2 hits as well. So really recommend using Seeker Grenades if you can get the blueprint. And we'll actually talk about getting those blueprints right now. So in order to find some of these explosive blueprints, the best way to do that is going to be going on Stellar Montis in night mode. Here you're going to be able to find the Wolfpack, the Deadline, the Seeker, the Trailblazer, all these things. What you want to do is run around, check these security cases. You can see like this one. You can see I find a Seeker there. You want to go around and check all of the bins, the trash cans. They're excellent for finding blueprints. And also just look in drawers and also these blue cases and any lockers you might find. Security lockers can be good as well. If you just run around like crazy on Stellar, looting these things, especially the bins, that's where I found my Wolfpack, was in one of those bins like you just saw there. Get to this lobby area, the atrium area. There's a lot of them around there. Run in there, check for them. You're going to find some of those pretty quickly. You can also use Stellar for farming some of the parts you need for crafting. You can see these red containers on the side here. That's synthesized fuel, which you can use for crafting the Trailblazers. You can also buy some of that from Celeste in the store if you run out. There's also a few other places in Stellar. This room with the drawers, for example, down near one of the train stations. In any of the rooms with tables and desks on the side, you can find them sitting on the desks. And also the metal trolleys around Stellar, you can just have them sitting there. Some of the other stuff you might need to craft explosives is going to be explosive compound and crude explosive. That's for crafting most of the things like the Deadline and the Wolfpack. And this stuff you can farm really nicely on Bluegate. You can craft both those things in your refinery, but for the explosive compound, you need to have oil. Oil's pretty common, but a great way to get tons of it is by going onto Bluegate, farming the big underground area and just breaching and opening absolutely everything. The cars, any other breachable container. Go around and check them all. You're going to find loads of oil and you're going to find loads of chemicals. You can use chemicals to make crude explosives and you can use oil to make explosive compound. As well as that, you can find synthesized fuel down there to make Trailblazers. And you also find a lot of things you can break down. That's going to be water pumps, pollution filters, motors, coolant. You can see I've got all of that stuff there. All of that breaks down into oil. And from doing this one run here of Bluegate Underground, you can see I've got over 100 chemicals. Sometimes we've done this and got nearly 200. I've got a full stack of oil in my safe pocket. You can't quite see. Another 8 there in my inventory, plus a load of stuff that's going to break down into oil. And I think we ended up with like 35, 40 plus oil from that one run, from that one game on Bluegate. And that then lets me craft tons of crude explosives, and we can use that to make more deadlines or wolfpacks or whatever we need. You can also get explosive compound from the electromagnetic storm mode. If you find the fossilized lightning on the floor that gets left behind by the lightning sometimes, that actually breaks down into explosive compound. And you can also find a lot of that in security containers, like in the reinforced reception. If you go and hit those security lockers, you can find compound and crude explosives as well. So that's everything for today. It was a bit of a mammoth video, so thank you if you made it this far, and drop a like and a sub if you did enjoy it. Don't forget to stop by my live streams on Twitch and YouTube if you want to watch me live. Thanks so much for watching. My name's Ben, and I'll see you next time.